During my stay there, the food was very good, I would say. Nothing extraordinary, but not bad. The only problem was they used to give food from under the door. Sometimes there would be like insects and all of that. They would keep the plate under a metal door. I didn't see this in the picture when you visited Aynaghor, but there were actually big metal doors there and another orange type of door after that metal door. And on occasions like Eid and other occasions, they would give some special food. They would give very good food, actually. So food-wise, they didn't give me bad food. Through a few days, I tried talking to a few of the guards. I gave them my number, the nicer ones. Among the guards, again, they were both good and bad. Some of them would swear at you, treat you like animals. Others would be very nice. They would actually, if they see you crying, they would give you a glimmer of hope. They would give me bread. Now, sometimes they would make it dirty by keeping it under the door, or just throwing the plate in a way as if the bread would come out and fall on the floor. So even and then there was one guard who would really misbehave when I went to the washroom. He wouldn't take me to the washroom and he would actually curse. But when I actually complained to the officers, they would actually solve this thing. So one day in 2017 Ramadan, for 1 or 2 days, I was taken to that room right opposite to the interrogation room, where I climbed up and saw that mall-like building. So in that room in Ramadan, I was crying a lot. This supervisor came and he probably felt some sympathy and he said, please don't cry. Our hands are tied, but tell these to the Boro Bhais when you're taken for interrogation. Tell them, don't ask for food, don't complain about the guards. These are small things. Cry and tell them to give you a phone call. The things you're telling me, tell them. So it seemed like he was sincere. He didn't sound like an officer. Because that's when they would take, at least I'm not sure about other prisoners, other victims, but they would take my blindfold off when I was let in the toilet. They didn't physically assault me, or the worst they did was treat me bad. Or if I requested for anything, some of them would come and be verbally abusive. Some of them would push, behave bad, or open the toilet door. And when I complained to the officers, this would actually stop. Once they tied my hand to something like a machine where they would raise me. And they threatened me that we can raise you. We can even hang you to death on this machine. They made me sit on that spinning chair. And they kept on asking, should I turn it on? Should I turn it on? So they were intimidating. Thankfully, alhamdulillah, they didn't, physically harm me in that way.
Did the people around you, were they tortured, like physically?
Yes.
Those you talked to?
Yeah. Selim, for example, when he was in Litun Bhai's room, so Litun Bhai said they really beat him up a lot. And later when I saw his interview on Netro News, I did see that he's saying that he was tortured and some other people were also tortured. And then there was this another guy, middle-aged person with a very deep voice who would be in room number 3. He would always cry out so loud. So all of us would cry, but it didn't sound like the crying of someone remembering his family. It seemed like he's crying out of physical pain. Throughout my stay there, they didn't torture me as such. I've heard stories of many other survivors, like given electric shock or beaten very badly. They didn't do that with me, thankfully. Maybe because I cried a lot, so I'm not sure. Maybe Allah put some mercy in their hearts. And yeah, they didn't beat me, but they did it kind of mentally. They would scare me. They would create a situation like it's absolutely hopeless. You're never going back to your family. On many occasions, they promise that you're going to be released tomorrow or next week, very soon. And it sounded very real, but then nothing happened. So that was actually devastating, because the biggest torture for me there was not physical. I think if they tortured me physically, maybe it would have been a distraction and it might have, kind of lessened or reduced my mental suffering. But it was more like a mental torture for me. Every day, every hour, every time I would wake up from my sleep, it was like heartbreak, because most of the time I would dream about my family, like I'm back there, I'm back home, back with my kids, but then you wake up and it's the same room, same thing. So that was the biggest thing for me.
Depressed, suicidal?
Very much, yeah, I did. I was very strict in my hunger strike. I was not even taking a drop of water. So I was, in fact, one of the medical officers. Yeah.
One of the medical officers?
One of the officers, in fact, but he was surely quite, well learned about medical science as well. So he was telling me that your body shows that you're now losing muscles. You're starving, so you're seriously harming yourself. This is not allowed in your religion and all of that. There's a number of times. During the final one, they actually tried to force feed me. They took me and they wanted to feed me. They held my hands. They wanted to feed me forcefully. And that's when I even stopped drinking water. So I said, I won't drink a drop of water. You can do whatever you want. And that was the time when, by the way, this is not the officers who tried to force feed me or all of that. They probably instructed the younger people who were there. Younger guys were most of them were young in age. Maximum would be 30 years. Most of them would be young in age. Many of them would be in their early 20s. It seemed like at one point in my room, they tried to strangle me. And that's when I started shouting, and then they let me go. I was shouting really loud. They held my mouth, and I was becoming violent. And I started shouting. Then one of the nicer officers, he talked to me, and he said that this will not help. This is not how this place works. I lost track of time because during the hunger strike, I would be sleeping most of the time. I couldn't walk to the toilet. They had to carry me there. So I was in a really bad shape.
Okay. Do you feel anybody was killed? Any indication of killing?
Yeah, surely, because they threatened me that we can kill you. You would, for example, some of them would be very, like, they would almost tease you for your suffering instead of showing sympathy. So if I said, sir, I can't sleep properly, or, I can't pray, or I can't rest because of this fan, can you do something about it? So he would laugh and say that you're complaining about this, you should be happy that you're alive. Do you know that people here, we can kill them whenever we want? So they did threaten me. And as I wrote in my complaint, I heard about the artisan attack in 2016 December, I think. Yeah, November or December. I'm sorry, October, because this was before Little Bhai was. No, I'm sorry, this was after Little Bhai was released. So this was November. So one of us came and said there was something like this which happened, and I was questioned about it. And at that time, I didn't know about this Holy Artisan Restaurant Bakery. I thought this was the artisan clothes shop, which I would frequently visit. I would always take my family there. So I was actually worried about my family. It's something because they would go there frequently. And then that's when I became very restless, and I told the guards, I want to talk to the officers. I want to know about my family. So they took me for an interrogation. And there, this officer told me that there was an attack, something like this. And he actually showed me some of the pictures that they were killed. And many of these pictures are still not in the media. These are so. Do you know any of them? I said, I don't know any of them. But later on, I figured out that whoever, during these crossfire operations throughout the country, I'm sure they got these pictures immediately, because that officer said these are still not, and they didn't look like media pictures. They looked like raw pictures.